If you're looking to create, grow, and sustain your wealth, download and subscribe to the Pain Points of Wealth podcast at BeBullish.com with Bob, Ryan, and Chris Payne. It's your podcast for market insights, money tips, and real talk on the economy. Download and subscribe at BeBullish.com.
Say hello to the all-new Alexa Plus and see how Alexa can do so much more for you. Need tickets to see your favorite artist? Craving your comfort restaurant? Just sit back, relax, and talk naturally. Alexa's on it. It learns your style, anticipates what's next, and makes it happen across Echo, Fire TV, and more. Learn more at Amazon.com/new Alexa.
Let the Record Show with Judge Richard Weinberg,
Suffolk County Republican Committee Chairman Jesse Garcia, and
essayist and commentator Eric Levine on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back to Let the Record Show with Chairman Jesse Garcia of the Republican Party. Jesse is a vice chair of the New York State Republican Party and the county chair of the Suffolk Party. With us, our co-host, Eric Levine, noted commentator, attorney, and essayist. I'm Judge Richard Weinberg. Well, we're very honored and privileged today to have Elise Stefanik, a great congresswoman, a leader of the Republican Party nationally, made great headlines when she cross-examined the college presidents for their lack of attention and due diligence on the anti-Semitism during the riots in the spring of this year. Elise is a graduate of Harvard College. She is on the Armed Services Committee, the Education Committee. Very importantly, she's the chair of the House Republican leadership. And just a few days ago, she announced that she's going to be running for the Republican nomination for the governorship of New York. Congresswoman Stefanik, welcome to Let the Record Show. We're very, very happy to have you here with us today.
It is great to be on the show. We've had an outpouring of support all across our state, and I've been crisscrossing this state. And it's not just from Republicans and independents, it's from traditional Democrats as well, who realize that Kathy Hochul has failed New York, and she needs to be fired to save our state. So looking forward to diving into the issues.
Eric.
That's great. Well, Elise, thank you for joining us. It's always great to speak with you. I should add, Richard, let's remember, Elise was originally nominated to be ambassador to the United Nations.
Exactly right.
And in a great act of patriotism, agreed to withdraw, to step down from that nomination, to serve the president, to continue to serve in the Congress. And for that, we're all grateful. Elise, thank you.
And it was absolutely essential that she had to do that because that lead that Speaker Johnson had to control the caucus and control the House of Representatives is absolutely essential to defending and protecting our country. So you truly are a patriot, and that was a selfless act, and we all deeply appreciate that. We know you would have been a great UN ambassador, but we also know you're going to be a great governor of the Empire State.
Well, thank you so much. That was very important because if you look at the slim majority that we have in the House, this is historically slim. And we have a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to deliver for the American people and specifically for New Yorkers. And what I'm most proud of is in that bill, I negotiated the largest tax cut for New Yorkers in history with the raising of the state and local tax deduction as well as the tax cuts in the overall bill. In addition, it provided increased funding for our police and law enforcement and Border Patrol, which is very important to have safety on our streets. It helped incentivize educational opportunity, which is so important in New York City in particular, but across our state to make sure kids are getting the best opportunity to succeed. So I was proud to put New Yorkers first, and that's what I'm going to do as governor, always put New Yorkers first.
Right. I think people are going to start to see the benefits of the One Big Beautiful Bill on April 15th when they start sending in their tax returns. But let's talk about what recent history here in New York. So New York City last week just elected Zoran Mamdani as mayor. The mayor-elect is a proud member of the Democratic Socialist Party and is himself an avowed and unapologetic, to use his words, socialist. It's quite noteworthy, I think, that he voted for himself on the Socialist Working Families Party line and not on the Democratic Party line. I think it demonstrates where the Democratic Party is. He does not believe in private property and that government should control the means of production. That is the definition of communism, not just socialism. That's the definition of communism. Just ask Marx. He does not believe the Jewish state of Israel has the right to exist and that it is okay to agree with those who say, quote, globalize the Intifada, close quote, which really means kill Jews. As long as you don't use the term globalize the Intifada, it's okay to believe it. He supports the violent protests on our college campuses that intimidates and attack Jewish students, and he surrounds himself with advisors who are well-known Jew haters like Linda Sarsour. In my opinion, that makes him an anti-Semite, and this is in sharp contrast to your questioning of the college presidents of Harvard, University of Pennsylvania, and MIT, who remarkably admitted that it's, depending on the context, it's okay to say kill the Jews on your college campus. He campaigned with Imam Siraj Wahhaj, an unindicted co-conspirator of the first World Trade Center bombing in 1993, and to me that makes him unpatriotic. He's very public about his hatred for President Trump. Think of what you will about the president. New York City cannot function without federal funds, so this tells me he's an ideologue and a revolutionary and not someone really interested in governing. Yet remarkably, Kathy Hochul and Hakeem Jeffries endorsed Mamdani, and they said they had some principled, quote-unquote, principled differences with him. They've never told us what those principled differences are, but at a minimum, assuming they take issue with him on being unpatriotic, a communist Jew hater by endorsing him, they are saying that in their view, reasonable people can differ on the issue of whether or not it is unreasonable to want to make New York and America a socialist or communist country. It's not unreasonable to be anti-Semitic. It's not unreasonable to be unpatriotic. It's not unreasonable to antagonize the federal government, which funding is so critical. So my question to you after this long-winded introduction, what was your reaction when you heard Kathy Hochul's endorsement of Mamdani?
My reaction was that it epitomizes Kathy Hochul's weakness as the worst governor in America. I mean, the reality is she's an accidental governor. She's only in that position because Cuomo was forced out, and she was his do-nothing lieutenant governor who then was elevated to the governor's seat. Lee Zeldin came close to defeating her, but now that New Yorkers know her, whether you're Republican, Democrat, or Independent, she is universally disliked because she has not delivered for New Yorkers. She's made New York the most unaffordable state in the nation and one of the most unsafe. And that weakness was epitomized when she endorsed Mamdani. She did it much earlier than Hakeem Jeffries. And the reason why, which is really politically, it shows the cynicism that the Democrats have in their party. It's because of her own poll numbers. She sees the same numbers that we see, and that is she can't get above 50% of Democrat voters because she can't coalesce that far left. So this was an act of political desperation, trying to appease the socialists, in the meanwhile throwing New Yorkers under the bus. And it's very important. Mamdani barely got over 50%. Typically, the Democrat primary nominee gets in the high 60s or 70% in New York City. So that means that almost half of New Yorkers absolutely oppose Mamdani. And that also means they oppose Kathy Hochul. We are having so many people reach out to us who are traditionally voting Democrats and voted for Hochul in the past who have said enough is enough. And when Mamdani ran on the affordability crisis, we're going to have this discussion this next year. The affordability crisis is because of these increasingly socialist tax and spend policies that Democrats in New York, who control everything, by the way, the city council, the governor's seat, the state senate, the state assembly, they own this affordability crisis that is crushing New York families and small businesses. The other point that's important here, Eric, is as New Yorkers know, New York is home to more than 1 million Jewish people, the highest number outside of the state of Israel. This is deeply dangerous to have a raging anti-Semite who is not just legitimized, but endorsed by the governor of New York State. I have been the leader at the national level to combat anti-Semitism, and I've also thought a lot about how the pro-Hamas encampments led directly to the rise of Mamdani. The same people that were at those pro-Hamas encampments were the same people knocking on doors, working in the streets to elect Mamdani, putting New York's safety and prosperity at risk.
Well, that's where someone like Linda Sarsour comes in. You know, she's very active in CARE, which is a front for international terrorist organizations, and she was one of his strongest supporters, and has said that she's going to be monitoring. She's his mentor, and she's going to monitor to make his conduct as mayor to make sure he toes the line on quote unquote on Palestine and on the Jew issue. So that'll be interesting to watch. So your point is very well taken. I want to pick up on your point about the cynicism involved in the Hochul endorsement. What was particularly interesting to me about the Hochul endorsement was that Mamdani did not endorse her back. This tells me he wants something more from her in exchange for his endorsement. Because as you point out, he needs her. She needs him to win.
Right.
He wants his agenda passed. He wants free buses, frozen rents. He wants to boycott and divest from Israel, which I understand is against New York law. Raise taxes, individual, corporate, in New York City and across the state. And so she's concerned that she's going to be primaried in the first instance by a radical left Lieutenant Governor Antonio Delgado, and she wants Mamdani's help in the primary. And she will need his help in running against you in a general election, in turning out the vote in New York City. She needs at least 65% of the vote in New York City. My fear is that she's going to agree to implement his agenda. All these people who say, oh, Mamdani can't do this because he needs the governor's help, she's going to promise and she's going to give it to him because he owns her, because she needs him. So my fear is that she will agree to implement his agenda in exchange for his endorsement, but hold off on implementing these policies until after the election, like she did with congestion pricing. That's
the game she's going to try to play. And we're already seeing that with the gas stove ban. Kathy Hochul has horrific energy policies that have led to skyrocketing of energy and utility prices. As of January 1, Democrats led by Kathy Hochul passed a ban on gas stoves and an all-electric mandate. Not only will that skyrocket costs, but that's also very unsafe for New Yorkers, particularly in upstate, but all across the state. What did she just do? She just punted that to delay it a year after the election, just like congestion pricing, which she did before the last election, and then she raised taxes on New Yorkers. And just like, let's be honest, Cuomo did that with fracking a few cycles ago when he said he'd make a decision after the election and then ban fracking, putting a moratorium in place. I am going to hold her accountable for that. It is condescending to New Yorkers that she thinks she can lie to them and not be held accountable. We need a full repeal of the gas stove ban. And on the Mamdani question, you're exactly right. They are going to extract what they want from her because she's beholden to them. She had to bend the knee, so whether it's tax hikes, she'll try to call it something differently. You heard the people chanting at her, both in Queens and then when she was on her junket in Puerto Rico, saying, tax the rich, tax the rich. She said, I hear you, and then within 24 hours said she was open to doing that. And then, she said she's not going to raise taxes. First of all, Kathy Hochul has a record of raising taxes. There is not a single tax that she hasn't raised that has been put before her. They are going to extract that from her, and it will once again be another broken promise and lie to New Yorkers, in addition to her previous record of raising taxes, which will only make us more unaffordable than any other state in the nation. So she's really politically in a toxic place, in quicksand. Meanwhile, her lieutenant governor, who she handpicked, Antonio Delgado, is gaining support in his primary against her. So she will have a bruising primary to get through next year, which will force her to run to the left, and she will beg for Mamdani's endorsement because she's allowed the takeover of New York's Democrat Party by the socialists.
And what's very troubling to me, Congresswoman, is the fact that we live, and as Eric will dispute, but I'm still a registered Democrat. I'm the House Democrat.
You could be registered Democrat, but no one believes you're a Democrat.
Well, that's right. I think like a Republican. I vote Republican because of the last common sense hope for America, and certainly for the state of New York. We're a one-party state. So, and you pointed out earlier, New York City Council, one party. The State Assembly, one party. The State Senate, one-party domination. It's very, very important that we have a countervailing voice, and particularly a strong person who will have real leadership to stop this movement to the left, the overtaxation, the overregulation, the fleeing of our citizens out of the state. We're the empire state, and yet in the last decade we've lost about 1 million people, and we're losing the people who are the most productive. What are your thoughts about keeping productive people here in our state?
Well, we have to. I mean, it's existential for New York State. And you're right. We have lost more people than any other state in the nation. Just look at our congressional delegation. It continues to shrink. The districts geographically continue to get bigger. And there's been a hollowing out, particularly in upstate New York when you go to the southern tier, parts of the former sort of manufacturing base that we had in upstate New York. People aren't leaving because of the weather. They're leaving because of the policies. I tell you, when I visit with New Yorkers in Florida, they want to come back to New York York, but they've been run out of the state because of the tax issues, because of failed bail reform, and because they have the freedom in other states to continue to thrive and raise their family. The Mamdani win, if you look at the real estate agents in other states, there is a mass exodus, and that is only going to be further fueled over this next year. Because remember, Eric Adams is a Democrat, but he was a check on the city council. Eric Adams is a very common sense, pro-police Democrat. Mamdani is going to be a rubber stamp on the communist in the New York City Council. So it is going to get worse before it gets better. The only way that this gets better to address the affordability crisis is to have a Republican governor who has a record of delivering tax cuts, of unleashing energy independence, of supporting the police, getting rid of failed bail reform. That's my record in Congress. That's what I'm fighting for to save New York. And look, I'm doing this as a mom. I have a young 4-year-old. He was born at Saratoga Hospital in upstate where we live. And I want him to continue living in New York, to be able to achieve his dreams and raise his family someday in New York. My parents are still in New York State. We are New Yorkers, and it's going to be New Yorkers that have to put up this fight to save our state.
So you raised the issue of affordability, and Richard made the point correctly that this is a one-party state. How do you implement your plan to make New York affordable while you have a democratically controlled state legislature, Senate and Assembly, and we've never had? So I guess in the first instance, that's the first question. If you have to deal with Andrea Stewart and Carl Hastie, how do you get your agenda passed? And then I guess the $64,000 question is, we haven't had a Republican governor or a statewide Republican since George Pataki from 1995 to 2006. How do you win?
Well, first of all, George Pataki is a dear friend. He has a home right up in the Adirondacks, and I've known him for a long time. I actually volunteered on his campaigns when I was very young. And he and I have spent a lot of time talking about how a Republican governor can navigate and lead the budget negotiation process to deliver for New York families. And the governor has outsized authority and is the outsized driver in delivering that. The other piece of this is politically. I believe that with a strong top of the ticket, you can make inroads in both the state Senate and the state Assembly. That is going to be very important. A rising tide lifts all boats. We've seen that in my district with the infrastructure we've built across 15 counties. And we've seen that in other parts of the state where they've done a great job, whether it's on Long Island, in Rockland County, in Erie County as well, where they're making inroads in these key races. So how do we win? We win because Kathy Hochul, her numbers are abysmal. We are, of course, winning over 90% of Republicans. We are winning independents, and we are winning about 25% of Democrats. She is a accidental governor with no political home because she's getting squeezed from the far left, and she's getting squeezed from the center. And her record speaks for itself. Her record is one of tax and spend, of an affordability crisis, of an energy crisis with increased costs, of turning her back on police. And these issues, they really resonate across party lines. They really do. This is more existential than ever before. It's not the typical partisan elections, and you saw that in the mayor's race. People are scrutinizing these candidates for what they will deliver to New Yorkers or the catastrophe that they have brought. The other piece is we will have the most robust and well-funded campaign ever that a Republican has ever mounted in New York State, as well as just huge grassroots support. As you know, Eric, I've worked over the decade to help other people across the state, whether it's Republican House members, county leaders, make inroads. We've done that through our Save Our State PAC. We've done that through New York House Battleground. Remember, we flipped the House majority through the state of New York, and I was the one advocating for those House seats and those investments, saying, hey, Republicans can win, and we will. And they are great members who are able to hold down these very competitive districts. We have a very close working relationship and want to work as one team. But it's really about message and having a strong team and being well funded to get that out to voters.
Well, I've been told by the booth that we are running out of time, unfortunately. Elise, it's been wonderful having you on the show. We hope you'll come back and keep giving us updates on how the campaign is going. We wish you the best of luck. And New Yorkers, Elise Stefanik is our last best hope. And those of you who are thinking of leaving the state, give it one more year. Give it one more year. At least vote in next year's election. This is our last chance.
And if the Congresswoman is elected governor of the state of New York, as I hope she will be,
people will move back.
People will move back, and people will not flee. We'll have common sense leadership once again in Albany. Congresswoman, thank you very much for being with us on behalf of Chairman Garcia, Eric Levine, and myself. It's been a delight having you aboard. And as Eric said, we'd love to have you during the course of the campaign on this show again to talk about the important issues facing New Yorkers. Thank you again,
I'll be back. Thank you. I look forward to coming back on the show.
Thank you.
Once again, we want to thank Congresswoman Elise Stefanik for joining us today. A very interesting conversation, a very important election coming up, and a really first-rate candidate for the governorship of New York State. Please stay tuned. We'll be back in but a few moments with more important and interesting conversation.
If you're looking to create, grow, and sustain your wealth, download and subscribe to the Pain Points of Wealth podcast at BeBullish.com with Bob, Ryan, and Chris Payne. It's your podcast for market insights, money tips, and real talk on the economy.
Download and subscribe
At BeBullish.com.
If we knew more about our sleep, what would we do differently? Would we go to bed at a consistent time or take steps to reduce interruptions to our sleep? With the all-new Sleep Score, Apple Watch measures your bedtime consistency, interruptions, and sleep duration. Then, every morning it combines these factors into an easy-to-understand score from 1 to 100. So you'll know how to take the quality of your sleep from good to excellent. Introducing the new Sleep Score on Apple Watch. iPhone 11 or later required.
This podcast is brought to you by Carvana. Carvana lets you buy your next car on your terms. Explore a massive inventory online, filter for what matters, and find your perfect match. Then choose delivery to your home or pick it up at one of Carvana's iconic car vending machines. Every car also comes with a 7-day money-back guarantee, so you can make sure it's the right fit. Buy your car on Carvana. Delivery or pickup fees may apply. Limitations and exclusions may apply. See our 7-day return policy at Carvana.com.
Carvana.
I turned off news altogether.
I hate to say it, but I don't trust much of anything.
It's the rage bait.
It feels like it's trying to divide people.
If we got clear facts, maybe we can calm down a little.
NBC News brings you clear reporting. Let's meet at the facts. Let's move forward from there. NBC News, reporting for America.
Let the Record Show with Judge Richard Weinberg,
Suffolk County Republican Committee Chairman Jesse Garcia, and
essayist and commentator Eric Levine on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back to Let the Record Show. In our first segment, we were privileged to have Congresswoman Elise Stefanik, a great congresswoman, a national leader of the Republican Party, a national leader for common sense and human decency. She made a name for herself in confronting the weak, unapologetic, anti-Semitic leadership of major Ivy League universities. She, in a great act of patriotism, withdrew her name for the nomination for being UN ambassador, and she would have been a wonderful UN ambassador. But we're lucky to have her, and we're going to have her again during the course of the campaign. So, Eric, switching gears. Let's turn our attention to some foreign policy issues. What troubles me, and I'm focusing on the Middle East now.
Right.
Troubles me is some of the following. And like you, I do a lot of reading in these subjects. And the articles I read are troubling indeed, and some of the articles you've written enhance that state of concern. Let's take Iran. Iran is redoubling its efforts to rearm, to continue to do research with nuclear weapons, to try to build up its terrorist networks again. They're doing that, and I'm not sanguine that we're doing enough to put Iran back in its place. I've always been worried about that. That's one issue, Eric. Second issue is the issue of Hezbollah. They were supposed to be disarmed. The government of Lebanon was supposed to take care of that. They're not doing a particularly good job on that. That's a real problem. The Houthis continue to be alive and well and engaging in terrorist activities and threats to the state of Israel. And last but certainly not least is Gaza itself, Eric. Hamas is still there. They're liquidating their political opponents. They're consolidating their position. I don't like the idea of having Qatar or Qatar, depending on your pronunciation, and Turkey as so-called peacekeepers or protecting Israel against an onslaught of yet another terrorist attack by the Hamas savages who still control Gaza. So, in the immortal words of Comrade Lenin, with respect to all those issues, what is to be done, Eric?
It comes back to the three simple words. Let Israel win. Let Israel win. Taking it in order of the ones that you laid out there, Iran. I mean, interestingly, I guess whose side has got on? There's a terrible drought going on in Iran. Literally, I haven't had rain in almost a year. They're thinking of actually evacuating Tehran. There's so little water. Now, if these guys weren't a nihilistic death cult dedicated to the destruction of the Jewish state of Israel,
we'd get them water.
The Israelis would be able to share their technology with them, and they'd have water. But they're more interested in killing Jews than saving their own people. Is Iran trying to reconstitute its nuclear program? No doubt. Its ballistic missile system? No doubt. But they have no missile defense. The Israelis have wiped that out. And the United States and Israel are monitoring it very, very closely. It's one thing to say we're going to rebuild and reconstitute. It's another to be able to effectively do that. I do not believe for one moment, not for a nanosecond, that the Israelis are going to allow the Iranians to advance their nuclear program an inch, never mind within an inch of having a nuclear weapon. So I'm not all that concerned. Look, Iran remains a threat. As long as this regime is in place, it's a danger to Israel. It's a danger to Western civilization. It's a danger to the United States. But I think that for now, the existential threat is on the back burner. I don't think they pose an existential threat.
I just read in today's Wall Street Journal an article I found troubling, which said that the UN inspectors can't figure out what's left of the nuclear elements that they need.
Right. Well, the UN inspectors have never really been able to have full access to the Iranian nuclear program. That was part of the great lie of the JCPOA that John Kerry and Barack Obama rammed down our throats. Remember, they were supposedly to be precluded from developing a nuclear weapons program, and that the world was able to monitor it, except the world couldn't look at military bases. So where do you think...
That was a brilliant idea.
Brilliant. So where do you think they would develop their nuclear program? They would be able to do it on a military basis. Look, the Iranians have never been in check with the JCPOA from day one. Because remember, before the nuclear deal was supposed to even be able to become effective, they were supposed to come clean and disclose completely their nuclear program up to the date of the signing of the JCPOA. They never did that. So the notion that the UN isn't fully informed and can't get their arms necessarily around what the Iranian nuclear program is nothing new. That's been true all along. And I put much greater stock in American and Israeli intelligence than I do in the UN. And I have every confidence that, between spy satellites, between human intelligence on the ground, that the Israelis and we will have a sufficient amount of information and lead time to be able to destroy any meaningful development towards the ballistic missile defense program or the nuclear program. As it relates to Hezbollah in Lebanon. Look, nobody's going to disarm Hezbollah except the Israelis. The deal was that Hezbollah had to lay down their weapons and, become part of Lebanese society, civil society, and participate in elections. But of course, Hezbollah, which is an Iranian proxy, the Iran established Hezbollah. Hezbollah is Iran. They're refusing to lay down their weapons, and they're saying, look, the agreement we made was only south of the Litani River. Anything north of the Litani River, we can still hold on to our weapons. No, that was not the deal. But the Lebanese army, unfortunately, is still not quite capable of disarming Hezbollah. But every time Hezbollah violates the ceasefire agreement with the Israelis, there's no holding back. The response is swift and severe. And the United States were standing foursquare and shoulder to shoulder with the Israelis as they retaliate against Hezbollah. And hopefully at some point the the retaliation will be sufficient and Hezbollah will be sufficiently degraded that the Lebanese military itself will be able to deal with them. In the meantime, there are some very good conversations going on between Lebanon and Israel, which could augur well for Lebanon eventually joining the Abraham Accords. Gaza. This is the most troubling.
You forgot the Houthis.
The Houthis. I mean, they're launching a missile from time to time. These are people that come out of their caves and out from under rocks every once in a while. They don't pose an existential threat. What I suspect is going on is that Israel and the United States are gathering intelligence about who the leaders are in Yemen, who the leaders are among the Houthis, and that at some point we're going to wake up one morning and find out that Israeli special forces have landed in Yemen and have wiped out the Houthi leadership. That's what I expect is going to happen at some point. The Israelis just aren't going to sit there and take it. I have every confidence that they are planning to take out the Houthi leadership.
And the United States and the world needs a free access to the waterways.
Well, of course. That's one of the great defining characteristics of the American-led world order is freedom of operation of the seas. And you know who wants this more than any other country in the world? Egypt. Because if you close the Red Sea, where Yemen is, the mouth of the entrance to the Red Sea, the Suez Canal is meaningless. The Egyptians get almost overwhelming majority of their foreign currency through operating the Suez Canal. This war has been devastating to Egypt economically. Now, that's not to say Egypt isn't a lot to blame because the smuggling of the weapons from Sinai into Gaza came over the Rafah border, came through Gaza, which borders on Sinai. So Egypt knew full well that these weapons were being smuggled into Gaza, and that's why the Israelis need to retain control of the Philadelphia corridor, which is the southern border of Gaza and Egypt, Sinai. Which is why, just to digress for 1 second, when everybody was talking about the Israelis withholding food from Palestinians, which of course was not true, with Hamas stealing food and shooting people that were trying to get food, but it would have been very simple to feed the Gazans if the Egyptians had agreed to open their border and allow civilians into the Sinai where you could have set up settlements and you could have fed all of them. But the Egyptians refused. They forced them to stay in Gaza amongst the fighting because they think the Palestinians are a lot of trouble. They don't want to have to. They don't want to have to deal with them.
The Jordanians found that out.
The Jordanians found that out in Black September in 1971.
And the Lebanese found that out.
And the Lebanese found that out after the Jordanians threw them out of Jordan. They went to Lebanon, and then the Tunisians found it out after the Lebanese threw them out of Lebanon, and they went to Tunisia. And then Yitzhak Rabin, this is a topic for another conversation, entered the Oslo Accords, which turned out in hindsight to be a tragic mistake. But that we're digressing for a second.
Speaking about tragic mistakes. Because I was in Israel at the time and having dinner with some Israelis, and they asked me, and the prime minister at the time was Sharon, who was a great military leader.
In 2005 when they left Gaza?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And
that's different from Rabin and Oslo.
No, I know, but I'm talking about terrible mistakes.
Yes, this turned out to be a terrible mistake.
Right. And I was asked the question, what I think about Sharon's idea about giving Gaza to the so-called Palestinians. And I said, look, it's not my country. I'm an American. You have to live here, as Netanyahu and other leaders had said before and after and during. You know, they live in a rough neighborhood, a dangerous neighborhood. I was concerned about what they were doing. They left, as you know, and I've spoken about eloquently, they left Gaza, and they turned over the industrial capacity, the agricultural capacity, the water, the electricity. Everything you need for civilized society was left there. And what do? They made it an armed camp. They put the underground world to have terrorists, to have all those bunkers underground, under hospitals, under schools, under UN facilities. And that's what they did with it. So it's easy to say in hindsight, but I was always troubled by that because they make promises that they're going to be peaceful, but fundamentally their commitment is to extinction of the state of Israel and the Jewish community. That's what from the river to the sea means. It means the extermination of the Jewish people and the abolition of the state of Israel as a Jewish state.
So that raises actually a couple of issues. Well, first of all, in Sharon's defense, I mean, I was opposed to withdrawing from Gaza, but the thought was, and it wasn't crazy, that there is a cost associated with Israel being in Gaza. You have to have a very substantial IDF, Israel Defense Forces presence. People died. There were clashes. And the theory was that if we completely withdraw and we don't have the interaction, fewer Israeli forces will die and it'll be easier on the economy. That was the thought. In hindsight, of course, it didn't work out because from a complete lack of imagination, no one in their wildest dreams could ever imagine that they would take, as you point out, farms, manufacturing plants, schools, hospitals, and turn them into a terrorist, nihilistic, death-killed hellhole. That's exactly what they turned it into. No one imagined that anybody would want to live that way. But it also highlights another point. There have been a lot of lies told about the Israelis as this war was waged. And if you listen to the language that they use, and then you compare it to the Soviet language during the Stalin era and shortly thereafter, they're all the same tropes. What you're hearing today from the kafia Nazis on college campuses, what you're hearing today from news outlets and media, accusations about genocide and colonial settlers and occupiers. This is all
and apartheid. Don't forget apartheid.
This is all garbage that you heard from the Soviet Union because they in the Cold War they wanted to win over the Arabs. But in any event, let's just take the occupation piece for a second. Israel was created in 1948. The Arabs were offered their own state, but in the partition plan and also in 1948. The Jews said yes and the Arabs said no. So the Arabs then declared war on Israel and tried to destroy it. Israel won the war. But from 1948 to 1967, Gaza was occupied by Egypt, not Israel, by Egypt. Nobody called for a Palestinian state. Nobody told the Egyptians they had to withdraw. Nobody cared. In the Six-Day War, when the Arab states, Egypt, Syria, and Jordan were planning to attack Israel, Israel preemptively attacked and won in the Six-Day War. It was in 1967 that Israel occupied and conquered Gaza. So from 1967 to 2005, a much shorter period, that's when the Israelis were there. There's not been an Israeli in Gaza from 2005 to 2023. Not a single Jew, not a civilian, not a military. There's no occupation, none whatsoever. And there was a ceasefire until Hamas broke it and attacked. And that's when the Israelis went back in. But now what's going on, unfortunately, the Israelis control 53% of Gaza behind the yellow line. And they need to finish the job. And the current Trump administration, for reasons I somewhat understand, are holding the Israelis back. But unfortunately, I think it's the voice of Qatar and Turkey that are whispering in Trump's ear to try to hold the Israelis back for now. Let's see if we can work this out. The Israelis need to finish the job. Let Israel win. Israel needs to go in and finish off Hamas and eviscerate them once and for all. And just to put a finer point on it, there are currently 150 to 200 Hamas terrorists in tunnels inside the Israeli part of Gaza, inside the Israeli yellow line. And the question is what to do with them. And the answer, I believe, is quite simple. There are two options. They either lay down their weapons and surrender and go to prison for the rest of their life, or they die. This idea that we're going to release them and let them go back into Gaza so that they can just kind of meld into the landscape and eventually come back as terrorists, continue to fight as terrorists again, is nutty. There's not going to be a solution to this until Israel is allowed to ultimately militarily defeat Hamas, because nobody else is going to do it.
Well, Eric, thanks very much. This is Let the Record Show. I'm Judge Richard Weinberg. Our good friend, co-host, Chairman Jesse Garcia of the Republican Party, is out today facing the
dental work.
The terrible,
nothing worse than
the terrible, horrific dental work. We wish Jesse well. He'll be back with us next week. Stay tuned. We're coming into our final segment of the show, where we'll have Congresswoman Maria Salazar from the great state of Florida, one of the great leaders of this country, a Cuban American whose family escaped Castro's Cuba and who has a great new book, which we'll be talking about with the Congresswoman about. It's called Dignity. It's a great plan to deal with the colossal problems of illegal immigration in the United States and a path to a common sense solution. And Congresswoman Salazar will be explaining that to us in but a few minutes. Stay with us for a more important conversation, an interesting conversation. Thank you.
¿Hablas español?
Sprichst du Deutsch?
Kann du Norsk?
If you used Babbel, you would. Babbel's conversation-based techniques teaches you useful words and phrases to get you speaking quickly about the things you actually talk about in the real world, with lessons handcrafted by over 200 language experts and voiced by real native speakers. Babbel is like having a private tutor in your pocket. Start speaking with Babbel today. Get up to 55% off your Babbel subscription right now at babbel.com/Spotify. Spelled BABBEL.com/Spotify. Rules and restrictions may apply.
Every leap in American history has needed breakthrough energy.
Ignition, liftoff.
Now, AI is here, and Chevron is working to power it. We're aiming to develop multi-gigawatt power plants near data centers, designed with future pathways to lower carbon intensity. AI gets the power it needs, communities get the jobs, and the grid stays strong. Powering AI today builds America's next superpower.
This episode is brought to you by Marqeta. When it comes to your payments provider, you can't afford to compromise. Marqeta's modern payment solutions flex with your business without the trade-offs. Stable and agile, secure and innovative, scalable and configurable. If they say you can't have it all, don't believe them. Your business demands more. Choose a payments provider that delivers more. Choose Marqeta. Visit marqeta.com/Spotify to learn more.
You don't technically need this car. You say that out loud to yourself. You say, I have no space. You say, I'm just looking. Then you click. Then you zoom in on photo number 87 and whisper, oh no. Then you text a friend, the one who always enables you. You say to yourself, this is the last one, knowing it is not. You don't need this car. But maybe, just maybe, this car needs you. Bring a trailer. It's never just a car.
Let the Record Show with Judge Richard Weinberg,
Suffolk County Republican Committee Chairman Jesse Garcia,
and essayist and commentator Eric Levine on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Yes, sir.
All right, so we have about 15 to 20 minutes, and then then I have to run to do the. I have to get out of the studio after that because I have to go upstairs and get ready for the 5 o'clock show with John and Rita. All right.
Yeah, I am. If you can do, let's say 10.
Sure.
That would be good.
10,
okay, beautiful.
10 is fine.
I am in a cab, and I'm sure the cab is gonna. Would have to pay. That's the thing that I was asking him if. Well, it's all right with the New York traffic.
Yeah, I know.
You never know.
Okay.
All right. So I hear you.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Welcome back to Let the Record Show with Chairman Jesse Garcia of the Republican Party, noted commentator and essayist Eric Levine. I'm Judge Richard Weinberg. Joining us now is a very distinguished member of Congress, Maria Elvira Salazar from the great state of Florida. Congresswoman Salazar is a child of the Cuban exiles. Came to the United States. She's fluent in Spanish and English. A very distinguished journalist, both on radio and television. Indeed, won 5 Emmy Awards. Interviewed Fidel Castro. Has been a champion of freedom and democracy throughout Latin America, and is now a member of the Foreign Relations Committee. She's in her 3rd term in Congress. Congresswoman, it's a delight to have you on Let the Record Show. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for having me.
Now, you're a great leader of the Congress and very well esteemed by your colleagues. I know that because I know a lot of your colleagues in the House and the Senate. And a lot of people are very taken by this book that you have written, which is called Dignity, Not Citizenship, The Truth About Immigration No One is Telling You. And what I found very compelling about this, Congresswoman, is that you dedicated this book in a message to President Trump. And you said, if he solves the immigration problem, this will be the greatest legacy of his presidency. Would you tell us why you wrote this book and what the people should know in America about immigration?
Yeah, and I think those are very important questions because Donald Trump is the only president that has the internal fortitude and the strength to solve a problem that has been affecting this country for the last 40 years. We're talking about the last president who signed immigration reform was Ronald Reagan, number one. Number two is immigration is economics. Immigration is not only politics. Immigration is national security. Immigration is the border. Why do I say that? Because if we know who's here, we have a national security freedom to know that we know who our neighbor is. Number two, if we bring out of the shadows those people who have been here for more than 5 years and do not have a criminal record, and they can pay a fine, we can levy their wages, we can then make them pay for them to stay. These are people that are needed in 3 specific sectors: agricultural, construction, and hospitality. And President Trump comes from 2 of those sectors, construction and hospitality. We got to fix the problem. We cannot deport 10 to 15 million people who do not have a criminal record, who have been here for years, decades. We don't have enough agents. Besides, the American people don't want that. Don't give them citizenship. Don't give them amnesty. Don't give them any type of federal programs. Don't let them vote, but bring them out of the shadows, make them pay, let them go home for Christmas, let them buy homes, and open a bank account and a credit card and buy cars, and the economy will flourish, not by their consumption and by the work they are doing in those 3 sectors. So it's a win-win-win for everybody.
And I think it's very important that you said this, because this, as you correctly point out in the book, this has been a political problem that goes on decade after decade after decade, and there's not the political will or courage or wisdom to try to solve it. What you're doing in this book is you're setting forth a platform, an agenda, an approach to solving one of the continuing problems that faces this country. And if it's not solved, it'll only perpetuate itself.
And not only that, and then we're not going to attract to the GOP the largest minority in the country, the fastest growing minority in the country, and we're not going to be able to then continue winning elections. And that is what I want to do. I want to bring the largest minority in the country to the GOP so we can continue winning elections and we can fend off socialism. Well, that's the ticket.
Well, that's in fact, and you're an expert on this because you've spoken about freedom for the people of Latin America and the Spanish-speaking populations. You were the only member of Congress that I'm aware of that went to Argentina for the swearing-in of the president who's trying to lead the way forward there. You've been a critic of the totalitarian communist regimes. Coming from parents who fled Castro's Cuba, you fully understand that socialism promises a lot but only winds up suppressing freedom and is oppressive.
That is correct, and that's why I want the GOP to attract the Hispanics. And what happened on Tuesday, we lost everything that President Trump had gained in 2024. We only lost it in 1 year. Why? Because the way ICE is conducting those raids, it's not the right way. We should be concentrating on the bad hombres. We should be concentrating on the bad hombres and not on the good hombres.
I think that's exactly right. It's a fight that can't be won. There's just too many people there. I think the idea of separating out, as you correctly call it, the bad hombres from the good hombres, far, far, far more good people have come in, even though they may technically be illegal aliens under the statutes. But the fact of the matter is, if they're contributing to this country, if they're good citizens in the making, and if they'll go through the process ultimately, that's a way of doing it. But you're not proposing in your Dignity Act, which you're introduced into the Congress and which you're talking about in your book, Dignity, Not Citizenship, you're not saying that this is a citizenship path. This is a path to dignity that's a win-win for the country and for this population.
Yes, the only thing you can do is just give them the dignity status for them to stay in the country, continue contributing, pay a fine, pay a levy, 1% of their salary for 7 years to the Treasury, and that is going to create 2 pots of gold, 2 pots, one to retrain American workers and the other one to give back to the Treasury. This is going to definitely help. This is going to definitely help the Treasury and to retrain American workers.
Well, I want to ask you one more question before I let you go. I want to commend to our readers your book, Dignity, Not Citizenship, The Truth About Immigration No One is Telling You. What you're doing is you're laying out a step-by-step program to make something that's been a problem for decades and decades. You've proposed a solution in the legislation. Are you hopeful that we'll be having hearings on this in the foreseeable future?
Listen, I'm very hopeful because in reality, Donald Trump is a person, is an intelligent guy. He's not a politician. He understands that right now we have lost an important block, a voting block that we need, like I said, to continue winning elections. And on top of that, Trump has said it before that he knows that the H-1B, that we need hands and that we need new foreigners doing jobs that Americans cannot do or will not do. Because you're going to tell me that really an American is going to be for 12 hours stooping down, picking up jalapeno peppers in Southern California or the oranges in Nebraska? Or in the slaughterhouses, or in the dairies, or in the greenhouses, or construction, or roofing. Come on. Let's be realistic.
Well, that's what I like about you, Congresswoman. You're a great leader of the Congress. You have a great proposal in your legislation. This is a wonderful book, which I've read. I commend it to all our readers. Dignity, Not Citizenship, The Truth About Immigration. No one is telling
you the truth. No one is telling you the truth, and they can go to Amazon.com and you can pre-order it. And I'm sure that this could revolutionize the country and for the benefit of the GOP. And at the same time, it will be an economic boom. And at the same time, we will codify into law the BBB and the border now being secured. Because something that most people do not know is that the next president could do what you call rescinding, meaning that you can scratch the money that was allocated to secure the border. And can you just picture this? In 2028, we're going to have another 2020.
Congresswoman Maria Salazar, we want to thank you very much for being with us today. You're a great leader of the Congress. You're thoughtful, you're common sense, and your book, Dignity, Not Citizenship, is a great book. Everyone should read it. It's a path and an agenda for a solution to an age-old problem, and I look forward to your success in getting the legislation through and the success of your book. Thank you for being with us.
Okay, only 10 more presents to wrap. You're almost at the finish line. But first... there, the last one. Enjoy a Coca-Cola for a pause that refreshes.
This episode is brought to you by Netflix. Tomorrow night, witness the end of an era. John Cena takes center stage for his final appearance ever on Monday Night Raw. One last match, one unforgettable farewell. Celebrate the legacy of a true WWE legend. Don't miss Monday Night Raw, tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific Time, only on Netflix. Be there for the moment everyone will be talking about.
A message from McAfee. Wondering why the post office is texting you or why you owe thousands of dollars in toll fees? Because someone's trying to scam you. The good news? McAfee can help. With McAfee's award-winning scam detection, it's easy to tell what's real and what's fake over text, in your inbox, and online. If they're
You want a free gift.
Seriously? If they're faking it, they're not making it past us. Get award-winning scam detection today. McAfee.com/keepitreal.
Grabbing the holidays by the boughs with Duluth. Step 1. Hire a mall Santa to handle snow removal.
Ho, ho, ho! My sciatica.
Step 2. Hit Duluth Trading and load up on fire hose pants, buck naked underwear, pocket pack bibs, free swinging flannel, and all kinds of ingenious gear you won't find anywhere else. Grab the holidays by the boughs and shop Duluth Trading, online and in store.
Let the Record Show with Judge Richard Weinberg,
Suffolk County Republican Committee Chairman Jesse Garcia,
and essayist and commentator Eric Levine on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back to Let the Record Show with Chairman Jesse Garcia of the Republican Party, noted attorney, commentator, and essayist Eric Levine. I'm Judge Richard Weinberg. Well, I had the occasion to read a very interesting article in the Wall Street Journal on Thursday. And it was written by Karl Rove, who's a senior advisor to President Bush the Younger, and which he was talking about the futility and the stupidity and the pure nonsense and self-destructiveness of both the Democrats and of the Republicans. So let me share some thoughts about that. What Karl Rove has said is as follows. With the Democrats, they picked a fight with respect to the shutdown. Now, it was never about the merits of getting health care for anyone, particularly illegal aliens. Never about that issue at all. Fundamentally, it was their attempt to show that they were tough and that they would fight back against Trump. They looked for any issue at all so they could cause havoc and fight against Trump, because fighting against Trump is a political device, and it's their only message. You know, they're suffering from Trump derangement syndrome, and what they're trying to do is they're saying, we'll fight against Trump, and therefore we'll earn your vote because half the country hates Trump, and therefore this is a good political thing to do. And what was the cost of doing this futile, foolish gesture? Traffic was delayed in the airports. People were inconvenienced. Billions and billions of dollars every day were lost in revenues because of commerce. People were not being paid who were doing the job. Air traffic controllers who had the safety of our traveling population in their hands were overworked, were waiting for paychecks. They were doing double and triple time to keep it going. The airlines had to cut flights. Soldiers and military people and government workers weren't getting paid. Benefits for food stamps were not being delivered, so allegedly people were going hungry. And yet, as a result of this, something that the Democrats clearly lost in this battle, and they clearly lost the battle, they looked foolish because they really never had a real object of real substance to protect America. And let the record be really clear. You always have a situation where a continuing resolution is agreed upon by the parties. It gets through. The Democrats have always pushed that. They got through all the continuing resolutions all through Biden and Obama years, and the Republicans backed it. It was not a problem. They got this gambit because they thought they were resisting Trump, and therefore it was a political good message. And that was just wrong, and the country has paid a price for that kind of foolishness. And hopefully the Democrats will pay a price for it as well. It's never a good thing to shut down the government of the United States. We have to continue doing business and protecting our economy and our workforce. Because we have enemies both inside and outside this country who would do us harm. And when we're divided amongst ourselves, they take advantage of that. They maneuver against that. On the flip side, Karl Rove, in his great column, also points out as follows. Republicans are guilty of foolishness as well. What do I mean by that? Or what did Karl mean by that? What he said is simply this. The Tucker Carlson wing of the Republican Party, the so-called populist wing of the Republican Party, backed by people like Candace Owens and Nick Fuentes and other radical politicians and influencers, they take the position that anti-Semitism is not a big deal. It's okay to engage in Jew hate. Why protect Israel? What does Israel do for the United States? Well, the answer for what Israel does to the United States is very simple. It gives them important intelligence they need. It fights the wars to protect American interests, as we know successfully in recent months. It provides medical and technological advances, which it shares with the United States. And for all those reasons, whether it's military intelligence or military successes or medical or technological advances, Israel is an ally of the United States, and why this fringe group wants to attack Israel and the Jewish community and re-engage in that age-old cancer of Jew hatred is beyond me. But what does Tucker Carlson do? He brings Fuentes, this Nick Fuentes character, who's an avowed Nazi, who thinks, what's the big deal about rape, for example, and Stalin was wonderful and Hitler was cool. That's Fuentes. He puts him on his show and he lets him talk unchallenged and gives him a forum for hatred against America, against Jews, against Israel, against Putin, enemy, Zelensky, where Putin has waged a war of aggression against Zelensky and the people of the Ukraine. And he allows this kind of nonsense to go forward. And it's time for the Republican Party, as Karl Rove says, to challenge these people, to put them down. Fuentes is given a forum by Carlson, who just sits back and like a bobblehead, as Eric Levine has said. Like a bobblehead just says, oh, it's okay, say whatever you want, do whatever you want. This is ridiculous, it's wrong. And then the Heritage Foundation, one of the great think tanks, conservative think tanks of America, what do? The head of that decides we shouldn't be fighting our friends on the right, go after the people on the left. So why are you bothering Tucker Carlson? Leave Tucker Carlson alone. He's just swell, no problem. Leave him alone. What's the big deal? He let Fuentes spew forth. Well, if you want to get the reputation of a political party that engages in anti-Semitism, and by the way, Carlson, for example, attacks people like Karl Rove. He calls them Christian Zionists, who he describes as despicable human beings, the worst kind of person, the people he hates the most. Let me get this straight. If you support the state of Israel and the Jewish community, somehow that makes you a Christian Zionist. And as a Christian Zionist, you have to be condemned rather than be encouraged and supported. Which is the only country in all Middle East where you can practice your religion, whether it's Buddhism, Hinduism, Zoroastrianism, Christianity, Judaism, or Islam. And that's the state of Israel. What's the only country that doesn't have laws condemning and persecuting gays and lesbians? So what the hostility by these fringe, these Tucker Carlson types, these Fuentes types, these Candace Owen types, what their problem is, I don't know. It's an age-old cancer, this cancer of religious persecution against the Jewish community, and it has to be stopped. And it has to be stopped whether it comes from the Islamist left, which is now dominating the Democratic Party, my party, or whether it's coming from the Republican Party, which is the last best hope at this time for common sense and reason, unless the Democrats get back to this common sense center. The Democratic Party always supported the state of Israel and always fought against anti-Semitism. They're staying definitely silent now. This deadly silence by the left is awful, and it's time that the Republican Party do its part and fight back against the anti-Semitism, anti-Israel rhetoric of this fringe on the radical right. I want to thank you for listening on behalf of Jesse Garcia, our good friend and colleague, the vice chair of the state Republican Party, county chair of Suffolk Party, our other good friend and co-host, Eric Levine, another commentator, essayist, and attorney. I'm Judge Richard Weinberg. We hope you enjoyed the show with two very distinguished members of Congress who came and gave their wisdom and their experience today. And we thank Stefanik, Congresswoman Stefanik, and Congresswoman Salazar for being with us today. We look forward to being with you again next week on Left the Record Show. And as always, God bless you, God bless your families, and of course, God bless America. Thank you for listening.
Thanks for listening to Let the Record Show with Judge Weinberg, Chairman Jesse Garcia, and Eric Levine. You can hear Let the Record Show Sunday mornings at 6. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode, so you never have to wonder,
what the heck is going on here?
If you're looking to create, grow, and sustain your wealth, download and subscribe to the Pain Points of Wealth podcast at BeBullish.com with Bob, Ryan, and Chris Payne. It's your podcast for market insights, money tips, and real talk on the economy.
Download and subscribe
at BeBullish.com.
What I bought? A new Blink Mini 2K Plus smart security camera. What I got? 2K clarity sharp enough to see every detail of home when I'm away. Plus audio like I'm in the room, not with my bestie traveling to another city. Plus easy plug-in setup to install faster than skipping through podcast ads. But you'd never skip ads, right? Plus, I got all of this for just $49.99. Blink Mini 2K Plus. Mini camera, max performance. Shop now at amazon.com/blink.